Hello and welcome. This is Eagle Eye 621, and today we are back in the armor testing world to talk about the best armor enchantments if you're going to be wearing Elytra. There are some timestamps in the description if you want to jump around, because I will be doing some examples and explaining more in detail as to how this works, and then some demos. Now, first, let's talk a little bit about how the armor protections work. And some of this you may remember from the last video. To make it very simplified, there are three different types of damage that you can use your enchantments to defend against. You have projectile, which I have here in white, blast in green, and fire in red. Now you can protect up to 20 points worth of damage based on the armor. And the way the protections work is your normal protection 4 will give you 4 of those protections for each of these slots, and any of your specialty protections, that is projectile protection 4, blast protection 4, or fire protection 4, will give you 8, but only to that specific type of damage. So I've just compressed this to a smaller scale to make it a little bit easier. So we have 5 for each of them here, and each one of these boxes does represent 4. So the protection would be 1 box across all of them, whereas the specialty protections would be 2 boxes, but just for that one color. Now, talking about this black bar right here, that is the maximum. Any protection you have above that is essentially wasted. So starting here with the full set of armor, that does include the chest plate, just to add some visuals to the last video. This is the so-called God armor. That's every protection on every piece. And this is the visual. It has way more protection than your character can make use of. In fact, any 2 of these would max you out, because you have 2 of the protection 4s, which is these 2, and then you'd have 2 specialty protections, which would already take you to this black line, which is above the 20. So this over here, which is protection 4 on everything, but then 3 of them each have 1 specialty protection. That is, this one has the projectile, this one doesn't have anything, the blast, and the fire. That also will get you above your maximum. So this will have the same protection effect as the God armor. One of the interesting things about the God armor, though, is you only need 2 of those pieces to already max out your enchantment special. And if you can't combine the different protections, which can only happen in 1.14.1 and 1.14.2 on the Java side, then the conclusion from the last video was to just put protection 4 on all of them. And it doesn't get you to the max, but it gets you pretty well close. Now, if you were to try and do something like mix and match and have a protection 4, a projectile protection 4, a fire protection 4, and a blast protection 4, you have your protection on the bottom and then your specialties on each. And as you can see, this is less than if you just kept the protection, which is why you do want that protection 4. Now, if you just tried to do 2 of the specialty protections, again, you're still less than what you had with the protection 4s for all of them, even though you've only tried to do it with 2. 2 specialty protections more than cancel each other out. So if you had both of these as protection 4s instead, they'd go all the way across and you would be better off. Now, I did mention that you could do something like this. You could have 1 specialty protection and then the rest protection of the general kind, but this is still not as effective as this unless you're worried about one particular type of damage. But I will tell you that this setup that you see here, that is 3 protection 4s and then 1 fire protection 4, is generally going to be a very bad idea. And let's go over towards our Elytra setup. But first, we do have some new players in our testing world. These are 2, obviously skeletons, but they have power 5 bows in their hand that I gave them specifically just so you could see what kind of damage they do. We have our lava that you saw last time, as well as some explosions in there. And why don't we start out with a little bit of death here by going into survival mode. And you can see how fast a skeleton will kill you with these arrows. And you can see that some of them did bounce off because you can't get damaged that fast in a row. So let's talk now about what our options are for the armor if we do have Elytra on. And based on the last video and the last conclusion we met, you would think that protection 4 on all of the armor is your best bet. And I will tell you that based on my testing in this video, I've actually changed what my setup is in survival, because this is a setup that I had just based on the math, and this is not going to be good. And you'll see that when we do some of the demonstrations. But this is what people will tell you is going to be your best setup. And let's do some experimenting with it. And I'll just clone some of these pieces so that I can put them on. And the wings are not going to do any good, but why not? First, let's see what happens in terms of fire damage. And the fire damage is decently well protected against. You still don't have a lot of time, but you do have some time to react and try and ender pearl towards safety. Now let's see what happens with regard to our projectile friends. And again, let's clone these and put them on and go fight with some skeletons with power 5 bows. I'm going to see if I can't speed this up a little bit by getting one to attack me first and then the other. And even though they do have power 5 bows, which is the strongest you're going to face, you still have some pretty respectable protection from it, enough time to try and dodge and weave or to get away. And now let's go to why this setup is no longer going to be my normal layout in my survival world. And that is because of our creeper friends over here. So let's see what kind of protection we have against a creeper. Jump back into survival. And dead. So even though you have blast protection, you really don't have blast protection. If a creeper kills you in one shot, then even though you have these 3 covered, meaning that you have 12 of your blast protection, you really don't have any protection. That's instant death. That doesn't give you time to react if you don't see it coming, which is why this is not the proper setup. This is not slapping one of the specialties on each, but this is the best setup you can have for your armor if you are going to wear wings. And that is to have 2 with the regular protection 4 and 1 with the blast protection 4. And now obviously you want to put the rest of your enchantments on this, including your Aqua Affinity, including your Depth Strider, including your Feather Falling, the rest of the things you would normally have on your armor. We're just talking about specifically the protection here. And the reason that this matters is because of that last test. So let's put this armor back on, and that's with a blast protection 4 and 2 regular protection 4s. Now, mathematically, you can see that this only has 8 of these boxes checked. And again, each one of these boxes is worth 4, but we're just going to be consistent. We have 3, 3, and then 2, whereas over here we actually have 9 of these boxes. So there is more overall protection mathematically and in theory in all 3 of them being protection 4s than having the one specialty. But this is where theory and practice collide, and practice is going to win out over theory. So let's grab our creeper friend again and see what happens now when we jump back into survival and we spawn a creeper. Survived. That is protection against a creeper explosion. The other one didn't protect you at all, and that makes all of the difference. Now, I'll also show you why that makes that much difference, and let's just see how this armor fares against our other things. So this is back into the lava. We're all back healed up. The armor isn't fresh, but it's not going to last long enough to matter. And you can see that we are taking damage faster, but we still do have some time to react. And let's also grab some of this armor again. And again, I'm going to clone this. And let's go talk to our friends with the bows. Again, I'm going to see if I can offset this. Let's go back into survival mode again. And they have to hit me. There we go. And only one of them is actually doing any damage because the other one's not shooting at enough of an offput. But you can see that we still do have some respectable protection against even these Power 5 bows. So the fact that you have protection against them with enough time to react, and the same thing with the fire, but that in this setup you can survive a creeper explosion, makes us far superior. But there are some other things that will help you out as well. So if you can avoid that instant death that we had with the creeper, what else can we do? Well, that's what's in this chest over here. And we have 2 things that make a huge amount of difference. This is a potion of fire resistance that'll last for 8 minutes. And this is a shield. Now, I know a bunch of you are going to say, Totem Undying, that will protect you from a creeper as well as the rest of this. And that is true, but this is not necessarily something that everyone's going to have, and also not something that you're going to want to have to keep in your offhand at all times, or it doesn't help. So let's go back to our projectile friends over here. And there's something else that you can do. And let's go into survival mode again. And it's just keep moving. If you keep moving, they will have a hard time trying to hit you. Forget about having blocks in your bar that you can try and make yourself a little fort. Just keep moving. And if you do get stuck in a corner, even if you get hit a couple of times, if it wants to shoot me, you have enough time to grab your shield from somewhere, put it in your hand, and block. And then slowly back away, or move in between shots, and keep going, and keep going. Because you're not dead instantly, you can mitigate against their attacks. Now, similar to that, in my survival world, I always keep a potion of fire resistance in my inventory. There are few things more frustrating than losing all of your gear and items into lava. If you are walking around, even though you can see my hunger bar is not full, I'm not going to get any regen help for any timing. If I fall into lava, I can very quickly grab my potion and drink it. And I'm good for 8 minutes to make my way out to safety. And that was a less than optimal drinking. It was in a bad place. If I was going to be in the nether, I'd probably move this to my hotbar, which you can as well. I would have had food on, which would have helped for some of the regeneration. And sometimes you even have a little bit of warning when you're about to fall that you can start getting it into your inventory and into your hotbar. And now the armor doesn't even matter. It's not the armor that's keeping me safe, it is the potion. Because I didn't die instantly. So you swim over to the end, you ender pearl, and you get into some water, or you otherwise just get out and let the fire stop burning. And then you can heal yourself later. And that is why I'm going to celebrate with a golden carrot here. And that is why what you would think of as the best armor is not going to be your best combination when you are playing with wings. You are going to want to make sure that you have 2 of your armor pieces with protection 4 and 1 of them with blast protection 4. Now, of course, as this is the armor testing world, there is only one proper way to end this video, and that is by putting on some of the completely unnecessary god armor and going to talk to our friend who's been waiting for us this whole time. Charge creeper to the face with god armor, not a problem. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.